very warm welcome to all of our friends, fans, community members, squad mates, participants, and viewers worldwide on various platforms. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for supporting both my podcast and the channel here, as well as our online community. Thank you for writing to us and for being here every single day with lots of interesting views, comments, and plenty of feedback for everyone to enjoy. We had a very productive, very busy podcast yesterday, which was in fact just an extension of the one from the day before. We talked all about Twitch streams and the way somebody perhaps could really try to establish themselves with their online presence as a Twitch streamer. And I had quite a lot of feedback coming in, and that's really fantastic. Thanks very much for watching and for responding to some of the requests that I've given you. I was expecting a few questions because, quite frankly, during my Destiny streams, which indeed were present here on the channel for more than 3 years, roughly about 3 years, we were talking frequently before we actually kicked off with our gameplay. We sort of spent time looking at all the ins and outs of Twitch streaming, and there were lots of questions coming in from wannabe streamers, usually fairly youthful, young, up and coming, budding US members of our community, asking lots of questions and trying to compare the notes with what I said and what they've read on the internet, which obviously is extremely noble and dedicated and truly wise, because you really want to be finding out from different sources, and the best way of knowing, the best way of learning is by talking to people who are successful in what they do, and then comparing that with perhaps a selection of other people who are already in the business, and maybe some random comments that you find on the internet. So you really have to approach 3 different sections to get a very good outlook on what is happening out there. Never ever resort to just one person, even if they are considered to be a genius like Albert Einstein, because they may have a view which is slightly biased and based on their own abilities or what they managed to achieve, or the recognition or the status, or whatever. So it's have a chat with several people. But I mean, my principle overall always has been, if you want to be the best, you've got to be with the best, and most importantly, you've got to learn from the best. So if you want to be your next Ibrahimovic or Ronaldo, Modric or Messi, well, you need to be with the guys like that, and you need to really learn from what they do, not just from the technique, but the overall perception of the personality, where they are towards others, the teamwork, and everything else that comes together with it. So that's the principle, and thank you for your feedback and messages. We'll look at that very, very shortly. First of all, I want to tell you, in our local area here in London suburbs, we are really having a bit of a dreadful, kind of drizzly, dreary, cloudy type of day. The temperatures are quite high, it's very, very warm, and therefore yet again we're having rain during the day and no rain at night when it gets much colder, and a bit breezy as well. So really a good day to be spent indoors, and if you are on Game Pass, my goodness, the number of titles you can be entertaining, the number of gamers that are going to be joining you with some of the recent acquisitions is just incredible. It's mind-boggling. It is, the limit's sky high, and new titles are coming in every single day. I've heard that there were 2 games introduced today, and let me see, we have, well, most importantly, I think for Jeff Rubinstein and all the fans of Yakuza 3, 4 and 5, today Yakuza number 6 had been added to Xbox Game Pass, so anyone who's a subscriber can just walk in and explore the underworld. And I told you that I've gone in on Jeff's recommendation recently, and unfortunately I also went into some other games like Watch Dogs Legion, which we are streaming at present due to its free weekend, as well as Empire of Sin, another inclusion on Game Pass last week. So I'm getting lost in all the titles, but I have a good news system which I think is working quite well. I'll tell you all about it very, very shortly. Anyway, coming back to the new inclusions, it's Yakuza 6, and then there is another 8 Strangers activity in Octopath Traveler, and there's lots of achievements in Octopath Traveler, and a game that everyone's very, very excited about. So absolutely, today's the day to have a look at it, in addition to the usual This Week on Xbox news and the podcast and Xbox Wire. I mean, the news just keep trickling along. It's just coming in abundance, and really I am oversaturated with information Never ever before had I had that many sources available that are providing me with the news minute by minute every single day, not just in the field of video gaming, but also in fields of music and film, as well as current affairs and geostrategic politics, the areas that I'm really interested in. So never ever is it in short supply, and I really have to cut down on some of the access, because sometimes before I'm going to bed, I just have a look at what's come in, and if you're looking at one hub, it's like literally 30 seconds. But if you're looking at several, it just stretches, and particularly if you find some very interesting development. For instance, I was about to go to bed last night after I finished my Watch Dogs stream, and a message from one of my very, very good friends and colleagues, who informed me that Bernard Tavernier, a very well-known French film critic and director, sadly passed away at the tender age of 79 yesterday. And that was just literally published on the BBC. So immediately after hearing this, because I was in awe of his writing and very, very fond of some of his films, just as a personality, if you are familiar with film history, he was very similar to Eric Romer and Francois Truffaut, people who were firstly writing on film extensively and then became very successful, very influential film directors. And that passion for film, and writing and thinking and engaging with that world there on the silver screen was present in all of their films, albeit the films were quite different to the way they wrote. So if you were looking at some of the other Frenchmen, for instance Jean-Luc Godard, a very prominent new wave director and also a leading experimentalist, he probably is a director that will require a much greater evaluation in terms of his own work within the body of experimental films compared to what they've done so far. He's always slotted in kind of a l'enfant terrible of French cinema with new wave flicks and feature films, but they're really experimentalist type of features, and the vast majority of his experiments were very, very hard to watch for anyone who indeed is very used to the ordinary, straightforward, linear narrative of French films, and he was really breaking the boundaries at all times and creating new ideas, and toyed with the idea of colour representing politics, like films like Weekend and La Petite Soldat, and so the list just goes on and on and on. Le Mépris, if you've seen, for instance, is a phenomenal CinemaScope shot film where he is also connecting the colour with people's emotions and alienation, I guess trying to provide an answer to, at that time, very popular and very significant other film director, Michelangelo Antonioni, who in the film Red Desert was introducing the same concept. So very interesting to watch too and compare. They're very, very hard films to watch because they don't really have a narrative, and they're all kind of playing with people's emotions and alienation in the highly industrial modern world, post World War II world of Italy and France. And evidently both countries undergoing major changes in the 50s and in the 60s that really kind of cottoned on, like 17, 18 years after the war ended, and how, for instance, society's changed, new generations sprang up, there was different ideas on how to run your life, how to live, how to engage with your friends, colleagues and workmates, what to do in your spare time, etc, etc. So very, very interesting. And coming back to it, so I've heard that Bernard Tavernier died. Bernard Tavernier, I think that's the way the French would pronounce it, and I immediately looked it up, and then I spent some time reading, and I want to find out what really caused the death, because he was attending some lectures quite recently, 4 or 5 years ago, at the British Film Institute, and he promoted also his very recent documentary called History of Cinema, and it's a wonderful personalized vision of his own life in cinema and his view on certain directors and cinemas overall, world cinemas. And he came to the BFI, the British Film Institute, to introduce in person. We got lots of people from France because obviously we're just across the channel, and unfortunately I missed that event. I was not there, so therefore my colleague who was there indeed was absolutely gutted, because he was very impressed and very excited, well, impressed is the best word really, with the resilience and youthfulness and very, very sharp-witted mind that Tavernier had when he talked about various film directors, feature films and everything else he experienced in cinema. So very, very tragic, and very sad to see that sometimes people who are amongst the bravest and the sharpest minds sadly pass away so quickly due to some sort of ailment, illness or mishap. In fact, sometimes you could have accidents, and people, well, after they pass the age of 80, are very, very vulnerable to falls, and you become just a lot more frail. Not everyone, but quite a few. And then sadly you're just taken away. We also heard that George Segal died the other day, another very well-known actor of that post-golden era of Hollywood generation that was very well known in comedies and sitcoms and then some television series. So it's been a very, very difficult year, and lots of people passed away everywhere worldwide. A very, very sad period of human history. Coming back to the idea of the news, so I was taken up by the information on Tavernier dying, and therefore I just spent a bit of time looking at it and reading. I wanted to find out what the cause of death was, in fact, and couldn't find anything because it wasn't really as yet released last night. But that is what happens, and then you are kind of not getting your sleep as early or as late as you should, and everything stretches. So I don't really suffer from the information alert where I would, for instance, feel driven to be reading all the time. It's not like that. I read what interests me, and I quite quickly go through very voluminous sections on Twitter and various other hubs and select what I'm going to be reading and what will be posted through other entities that I have on film and video gaming. On music, I'm no longer involved with the PR or any type of online management, which is what I had in the past, and therefore I don't really. I mean, to be honest, the reason I kind of drifted away from it is purely to do with all the changes. I just felt already from about 2005, 2006, to 15 years, music industry really drifted away from its core, the reasons as to why people are creating music, and what's been offered had been given in a very different overall package, and every artist, every musician was being given a specific investor's task, meaning they need to represent makeup, hairdressing, clothing, shoes, movement, dance, types of instruments you use, lighting on stage, and every one of those things is then advertising the companies that are providing that for them. How about the message? How about the most important thing, the music? What needs to connect with the audiences worldwide? That's just shifted, and you don't really get, well, if you listen to the lyrics and if you watch some of the performances, evidently the very big shows that we've seen over the years just grown and grown. You go to Kylie Minogue or Robbie Williams or U2. It's just unbelievable performances. You'll pay £200 to see that musician, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It was nothing like that in the 70s and early 80s. Just like 2 spotlights and people on the stage, and that was it. And the music was all about the message, the way you were connecting with people, what you were telling them, and how people were actually feeling what you were doing live. And that's gone. That's just simply gone. And I mean, really, my heart sank, certainly in the teens of this century, certainly in the noughties, I should say, where I realised that what was previously remarkable, with London being the one of the global centres for modern music, having lots of different music venues and of all sizes and in various parts of the city, I realised that there was a cut-off point, and I'd say probably around about 2004, 2005, where we suddenly had the interest for indie bands, for new music, suddenly dropping, and the venues kept disappearing. And I know, for instance, I used to go to the Barfly, which is the no longer, it's called Camden Assembly nowadays, but it was certainly the most important venue for new music overall, everywhere, worldwide. You have people come from all over the world to perform there on stage, but obviously very much focused on the UK, US scene. And I've seen there, goodness knows how many new bands that were delivering their first important shows, and it was a small venue. Up to 200 people could be accommodated on the first floor where the music was indeed performed, and it was a remarkable little venue with a lot to offer. And then suddenly everyone was just migrating to other venues nearby, also in Camden, where they were running DJ shows, and it looked like DJ shows were suddenly becoming prevalent and attracting huge crowds. And when we had bands playing live on stage before the actual DJ event, which would take place, let's say, after 11 o'clock, then everyone just left. So you have all the preparations, all the work and everything done for a band to be playing on stage. Everyone who's waiting in there for the DJs leaves. They leave. They're not no longer in the venue. And as soon as the live show ends, they will come back because they'll listen to a DJ. And there are many reasons as to why that is, and it's more to do with the way people socialize than anything else. It's just the way it is. It's connected with the mindset of instant messages, messaging, texting, instant responses, connectivities, and instant gratification. Watching a band live was a prolonged, protracted experience of somebody's emotions, which they were presenting. Think of the bands like Cocteau Twins or Susan Banshees, or you go back in time, Eurythmics, and it was a different story altogether. In here, you got one person DJing, doing all the mixes, in the same way as I was doing the other day on Fuser, the video game that was offered free of charge through Xbox. It's no big science, the tech is there, you just keep mixing the tunes, it comes across as really interesting, and people just keep dancing, they get very intimate very quickly, and that's basically the point, and they don't want to be talking, they don't want to be discussing things with each other afterwards. It's just all about getting a quick contact, and then you'll take it from there. So that is certainly the major difference I observed, and it did drift. It really caused me to drift, because I've seen so many very talented musicians doing their very best and trying the hardest to proceed and to basically put the foot in the door, but it just didn't work. They did not get enough support from the overall industry, and after about 3, 4, 5 years, they just called it a day, because there was not enough stimulus and there was not enough support for them to carry on. And it's astonishing to see that you have let's say a 4-piece band, and they would be working in full-time. They'd be having full-time jobs, working 7 days a week, and then they'd rehearse and play at night, and they had to invest all the money they earned, everyday work, into their live shows, because there wasn't an audience, and the promoters were squeezing on them, so they had to really pay in order to play. Basically had to bring in people to see them, up to 30, 40, 50 people, depending on the contracts and arrangements. It was unbelievably gut-wrenching and exploitative. I really had a problem. I really was at war with everyone in there who was trying to get the money from my musicians and setting up these kinds of idiotic conditions for them to play in a venue that otherwise would be making money on the sales of drinks, and the musicians being paid nothing. They even didn't get a rider, which is like 2 cans of beer. From having a crate of beer, it's gone down to 2 cans, 1 can per person, and then after that there's nothing. Kind of coupons which you will use if you brought in 50 people to the gig. I mean, an unsigned band without any form of publicity, how on earth are you to do that? And why should you? Because it's the venue and the promoter that needs to be raising publicity in order to bring in an audience. The artist is there to perform. He's not there to be roping in their friends, relatives, mums and dads, granddads, and the distant relatives in order to make some profits for the guys who are running the venue. It's just not on. It's ridiculous. And that really, after being involved with the industry for a lengthier period, basically pushed me into a lengthy departure. I just felt it was not worth it, and I don't want to have anything to do with it before it completely changes. And there will be some radical changes occurring after this dreadful lockdown, because our music industry has been at standstill since the 23rd of March of last year. There's been no gigs, and all venues have been shut, and basically everything's dead. So something significant will have to happen as we reopen, in order to attract new members of public to watch music and to get the industry going. So I'm expecting a lot of changes, and I think some of the changes will be probably very positive. You may have new trends, maybe there will be new musicians or new movements, goodness knows, but there will have to be something, because as it stands today, it's both unworkable and unlivable. And there are many successful, very talented musicians worldwide who actually do want to be performing and entertaining people who are interested in watching them live on stage. And the basic difference between listening to a CD or a live stream is that you are experiencing this person live. You can see exactly how capable, how good they are, how confident they appear to be when talking or performing at the front of a certain group of people, and it's a completely different experience. all about the news, all the changes. Yes, I want to tell you that I'm not really tied down to, I've got to be reading it. I must not miss out on this posting on Twitter or anything like this. It's just, I like keeping fully abreast and fully informed. So generally I do that like 3 times a day. So when I wake up, then sometime maybe late afternoon or early evening, and then before going to bed, just catching up with what's going on. And it's interesting because I used to watch Sky and CNN and BBC News all the time. I always had one of those, all 3 of them, switched on, and it's just gone. Certainly during the last, I don't know, 5-6 years roughly, I've gone just fully mobile, and I do everything through the postings on Twitter. And if there is a live coverage of a conference or a particular event, then I will switch it on because I'm really interested, like for instance the regular briefings to do with coronavirus. But everything else I don't want to see. Just time consuming and depressing, and sometimes quite repetitive because you have lots of participants there debating various issues, and it's the same sort of issues just recycled through different people. I get it really short and crisp, on Twitter. And if I single out something that I'm interested in, I'll rewind and have a look at clips and everything that's there. The beauty of all of our modern media is that it is instantly accessible, and then also edit. So Sky will have loads of clips of what people said, and it's not quite the same if you're watching them live, because afterwards you can cut out certain bits that are not unwanted, or you can tailor it to your taste. Or you can indeed single out a sentence, like what we've seen recently with some of our politicians. It's taken out of context completely. Even a joke could be seen as something very seriously said and then given as a statement that will undermine that particular politician. So, we're living in very difficult times. But certainly being able to access all the news so easily has been very beneficial for me personally, and as a person who as a teenager was always buying varieties and what is it called now? The Hollywood Reporters, and Screen Dailies, and what's it called? Screen Dailies. What is it called now? I just, my brain sometimes just stops, and I can't remember it. And these were the 3 magazines that I would be. Screen International. Come on, it's called Screen Daily on Twitter. It's Screen International. It's our publication in Britain that is similar to Variety, dedicated to anything that's happening in the entertainment business, primarily film and television. I used to get them every week, or every day in fact, and read them cover to cover, get knowledgeable. And today it's all live on Twitter or on the net. I think the Twitters are very good because they really pick up on the most important news. It's not chaff, and you just get through it, read it, and you get to know everything that's happening out there. So that is obviously to my benefit, and I like it. I've been using it all along, and it's quite interesting how everything evolved, because I remember when my first computer access was through CompuServe. CompuServe had news hubs, and they had various message boards, and were posting certain news, and today it's just Twitter and all the other hubs. Click, you see everything. Extraordinary. Anyway, coming back to video gaming and all we said. Everyone interested, you need to go and try that Yakuza 6. Brand new today on Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass, and then I keep forgetting the title of that other game. Octopath Traveler. I don't know, I just can't remember it. I remember Traveler, Octopath I didn't remember. So these games are accessible from today. So we are now going to be tackling all these niceties that come from our community, and I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who had supported my podcast, which has been now run for a couple of weeks. It's been a surprisingly busy venture, and the vast majority of people did not watch it live, but they came in on through playback. They watched and listened to it in their spare time, and that's really humbling, because I think my reflections and musings will connect with people who are interested in video gaming and other related topics and subjects. And it is very rewarding to see that people are asking specific questions after they listen to what I said, or after they unpicked a particular interaction we had. And the first question is from Gemma, and Gemma is in Southampton. and she said, "Hi Daniel, thank you so much for your wonderful broadcast yesterday. I really enjoyed all you said. I was very interested to hear on the method to build a successful Twitch streaming channel, because I want to be also one of the streamers, and I've tried it myself several times but didn't really work as I imagine it to be, and I had some issues. So I really want to ask you," she says, "you talked a lot about the best games to stream, and you made a big distinction between single player games and multiplayer. So can you just tell me a bit about the difference, and also can you tell me about your experience of multiplayer overall? Because I am a single gamer, I don't really like multiplayer too much, but I think doing my own single games is not going to bring me enough traffic to run a successful channel, and therefore I really valued and treasured your analysis, in which you really highlighted as to why PvP and multiplayer games are fundamental for any form of Twitch-based activity. And if you could just tell us a bit more about this distinction." Well, Gemma, I mean, thank you. It's a lengthy message, and thank you for emailing it to us. And Gemma is in Southampton. She is obviously one of our own, we'd say, and very much interested in becoming a member of our British, UK-based online Twitch gaming community, and that's fantastic. So I'm not going to go through all I said yesterday, but you asked specifically about the best games and single versus multiplayer. Well, first of all, I think your question was also about my overall experience, and then firstly I'll tell you about my overall experience of multiplayers, and then we'll tie this in with what this is like when you're doing it by yourself with your mates, and then what it's like when you're doing it in an open forum. Okay, so I really had a very lengthy history of involvement with multiplayers. It goes back roughly about 25 years. My first major multiplayer was Diablo, and I played it on a PC, and I had a small multiplayer community, a group of people who were joining me through Blizzard, and we were communicating through ICQ. So it was my first experience. Initially I started out as a single player on Diablo, and I had a very good experience. As you recall, one of the most popular games of that type still today. And then, we joined forces with others. So the first experience was very positive. I felt I could meet other people, I could communicate with them in real time, we could do things together. And then it was Diablo 2. I didn't really stress this high enough, because the Diablo 1 I played on PlayStation 1, and I played it later. I think Diablo 2 was the first one that I connected with. The first one just bypassed me for whatever reason on PC, and so the experience was very positive. And then the next big multiplayer for me was Halo, and this was not on a PC but on Xbox. And again, I connected with a small community of players. I need to say that in both instances my community was based exclusively on those people who were popping in and joining forces together with me. So we had like a small group that was doing it every single day, or every few days, on specific days in a week. And then the experience of multiplayer just became more apparent with PS4 and Xbox One, and there was quite an abundance of games coming in, and I think we are really talking specifically during the last 3 to 4 years with a multitude of multiplayers, Destiny being one of the most successful, Elder Scrolls Online being another, and then the whole string of games that came in as quick match, battle royale style games, which were given to us. And initially we've had games where you would just, like World of Tanks, play death matches all along, and then later we had games similar to Destiny, where you would have a vast big world of all sorts of activities, and then one section would be dedicated to PvP, and later they incorporated PvP together with PvE, so all of them together. An exciting new addition to the overall experience of that particular title. And yeah, so if we go back in time, you will see that the activity became more and more hectic as we went along. So initially with Diablo I had maybe 1 or 2 people joining, and this would be over an extended period of months. With Halo we'd have then, I just remembered something else, I want to play also multiplayer Command & Conquer, and myself and my brother-in-law at the time, we were really trying to work this out, and we couldn't. And it was just dreadful. And then we discovered we couldn't do it because we didn't have the right tech. We really should have had adapters on our PlayStation 1 which would connect to the internet and then connect to the network, etc. etc. It was like a really, really long-winded and arduous and difficult to comprehend. So after we worked out that we didn't have the right tech, we just gave up on it. But think about it today. It's all inclusive. You get your console and everything is in it. You don't need to do anything. You just click, connect, random matchmaking, and you're already there. So really, the development of the tech had enhanced the numbers as well as the overall activity, because we had, first of all, a much greater number of participants coming in every single day. It was easier to connect with them mutually, to random matchmaking or any other form of contact, like for instance friends groups on PlayStation, Xbox or PC. And as we had inflated the numbers, the activity became more hectic and there were many more participants coming in on every single day of a week. That itself brought some challenges, because if you compare the communities of early days, let's say Halo and Diablo, these were the people who were your regulars, and it was a small number. You knew them very well. You got to know them through gaming, and sometimes you'd get to know them in real life, but this was not that common. Most of the times I played with people who were in the US, because the US had a lot better, well-developed network compared to us here in Europe, and therefore I couldn't see them face to face, and we didn't have video hookups like we have on Twitch today. So it was a different era. And then as we carried on, I'm trying to think, what was the other multiplayer? Gears of War. Actually, I just remembered Gears of War was the first one. Was a multiplayer I played quite a lot on Xbox, and this was also in the noughties. So that was the next one after Halo for me, and I had huge problems with internet speeds, because in our local area in London, Alexandra Palace, our internet speeds were really terrible, and obviously doing multiplayer is very, very dependent on the quality of the internet. So I would, for instance, play against the guys in the US doing various quick matches in Gears of War, and would get really quickly eliminated. There was lagging, and everybody got very angry, very annoyed, the guys who were coming in randomly. And I realized very quickly that as these communities grew, as our means of communication massively improved, we could talk live on air, through in-game audio. We also had to be setting up some parameters, some rules, some terms and conditions for people who are coming in, because just like anywhere, we go to a pub or you walk the streets, you come across any kinds of people, and you never know what sort of responses they'll be getting. So it was very clear to me already, become 2006, 2007, that there was a need for the rules to be fully created and applied for my community, even before I was running Twitch. And being Xbox ambassador, it is something I always kept in mind. So really, coming back to the latest, so we're going back maybe 8 years, let's say, since the inception of Destiny, we are really looking at a different type of multiplayer. A multiplayer that's attracting that is attracting hundreds of millions of people worldwide, and a multiplayer that is frequently embedded within one game, like for instance Destiny or Fallout 6, to give just example of a few. Or it is a standalone game like Apex or Fortnite or Warzone, and then it's again attracting new members every single day. So these communities are massive, and they are quite game specific. People who play Apex are unlikely to be the kinds who will come in and do Warzone. It's just to do with the graphics, the way the game's delivered, the overall environment. Warzone being more of a real life military simulation experience, Apex being more of a FPS, sci-fi, fantasy, cartoonish type of online game, and that makes it very, very distinctly different. So you would have to have separate rules, I think, for those communities in order to bring people in and in order to make them more manageable. Because don't forget, if you are having new people joining your community, it doesn't matter if you're on Twitch or not, they will become sensitive to basically who they're in a squad with. And if they feel that the other guy is a bit abrasive and critical, judgmental, they might not like it. If you want to have a competitive channel, you need to state it from the beginning, and therefore you need to select people who are just into that. And multiplayers of today are very competitive, and you will get lots of people who are not spending enough time polishing the skill and then want to be massive and great overnight. So these are the ones that cause the biggest problems. It's not the experienced gamers, it's the wannabes. It's a bit like somebody who wants to be seen in the classroom as being the most knowledgeable, and he had never been doing his homework. Well, he'll come out full eventually, right? Because people recognize he's just a charlatan. He's making up stories and he doesn't really know anything, but he's pretending to know literally about every single thing in the world. And these people cause lots of problems with online communities, and we've seen them on forums like Reddit and Twitter, and obviously they keep coming to Twitch, YouTube, and any other online streaming service. So these multiplayers are presenting us as gamers with huge challenges. First of all, if we're entering an environment where we are playing with randoms, we need to establish some communication skills and some abilities to tackle randomly selected people from all over the world. Don't forget, people are different in one country, and if you are connecting with people who live in a completely different country, another part of the world, speak a different language, they will be displaying somewhat different behavior, right? And a game will be exacerbating a particular type of behavior. So I can tell you that Warzone and Ghost Recon and PUBG, they're stimulating more for a real life-based type of experience to which people will react in such fashion. They will be more dissatisfied, more angry, and sometimes quite abrasive and unpleasant. It's partly to do with the game, but it's mostly to do with the actual gamers, because first of all, they're not able to manage their own anxiety levels, or their emotions which are transpiring through the experience of failure. And if they're coming into a forum where you have millions and millions of people playing the game, evidently there'll be many thousands who are very experienced and are much better than them, or they have also skill, knowledge and experience, and they also have very, very fast internet, which is very important for PvP. And they keep losing, so they get very, very frustrated, and they vent out that aggression on others, which is completely unacceptable. The new multiplayers are all about team effort, and they're really trying to bring in as many people as possible and coach them towards working together. The problems in these multipliers occur because lots of people do not want to do that. So we've seen that with Apex, Warzone and PUBG. A gamer comes in and he's given instructions what they need to be doing, because they have a team leader in every single match, and this is the part that they don't think. That's causing frustration. That's really causing a lot of unpleasantries, because people who are wanting to do a squad game feel one person or even two people are immediately departing, doing their basically their own thing. It's absolutely non-team players, and that's endangering, first of all, the team effort. It's ruining the game itself, and everything is just being spoiled. So that's another thing which is worthy of concern, one needs to make sure that everyone knows from the beginning it's a team effort, otherwise it will just simply leave the game. Also, it's very important for people to have the comms on, because if you don't have your mic on, how are you to communicate, how are you to coordinate the effort where you need to be winning or surviving, as it's the case with Warzone or PUBG or Apex or many other games, rogue company. So my personal experience of communities online, excluded from actually Twitch streams, has been mixed. I've come across communities that I felt were really very together and friendly and happy. But on the other hand, certain games that really are fueling the competitive side were also full of people who were very unpleasant. And you would have seen postings on Twitter and Reddit coming from streamers, female streamers in particular, who are frequently at the receiving end of such abuse, which is completely unacceptable. And I believe that there needs to be a much stronger action taken by the developers and publishers in order to cut out such individuals. Because if you will not do some certain things live, in life, when you're meeting people in pubs or up and about out in the streets, then you are not to do that online either, because quite frankly there is no difference in the way you come across, right, and the way you affect other people. It becomes even more unpleasant if somebody feels that they're constantly at the receiving end of such comments and views. So really, multiplayers will be divided into two different sections: competitive and non-competitive. Generally, the majority of them are competitive, and the games are there in order for people to play them, and there's no competition element in there. What's the purpose, one could ask? And therefore, some of the games are being turned into very, very competitive shooters in order for many people to come in and join forces with everyone else. And therefore, as a member of that community, you will have to carefully consider how you want to be behaving and what you want to be doing in there overall with other members. But you want to have regulars and do your matches just with the regulars, or you want to be trying out with randoms and then try to build a community after maybe 3 to 6 months of that sort of exercise. So that's all applicable to an online community which is attached to a particular game. So just to summarize, these communities have been around for about 25 years roughly, and they have been of various size. We've had initially fewer people coming in due to the lack of tech, lack of equipment, and generally the way things were, whilst today we are talking about very large numbers, and all the games will have that random matchmaking set up, which means you can be playing with just about anyone from around the world at any moment in time. So therefore, in order to make that game experience pleasant, you need to set up certain principles and rules. You need to make sure you know what types of people you want to play with. You need to define yourself, whether you're a competitive or non-competitive player, whether you want to do it in a way which is just entertaining and funny for yourself and your friends, or whether you want to be pushing the envelope to get to the esports, or indeed to excel with some of the friends where you're eliminating everyone else. So, coming back to streaming business, right? Just need to compare that with single-player games. We know it all. Single-player games are everything opposite. You are basically your own person, and you will go through a game from beginning to end, and you'll be experiencing this by yourself. You will be then sharing your views through, presently on Twitter or Facebook, through comments or screenshots or clips, and others will be coming in and providing you with some degree of interaction. That itself is a lot less interactive compared to a multiplayer, for obvious reasons. First of all, you're not meeting anybody in the arena whilst you're doing a game, right? You're all doing it by yourself. Secondly, people interested in joining in are not going to be there because they simply can't join you in, right? It's just for you, the game. They might be interested in their own gaming experience, and they'll write you messages or throw in some comments, under your screenshots, but it isn't going to have the same degree of connectivity. It will be slow, it'll be maybe not as great in terms of numbers, and just generally it will be a slow horse, an experience that will build over a long period of time. And obviously you will have your gaming experience for your own personal relaxation, satisfaction and entertainment, right? Your communication will be done on Twitter and Facebook or any other social networking forum, where you will be then connecting with others through your own gaming experience, not live online, right? So that's the basic difference between these two. One, the single player game is not attracting that many people overall to come in, to communicate and to connect, whilst a multiplayer has that in its core. It's called multiplayer because it's bringing in people for communication, contact, and most importantly for a joint activity. You're having a task that needs to be completed, eliminating opposing teams, winning them, surviving the hostilities, whatever it is. So you can see the basic premise is already telling you, when you compare the two different types of games, that a multiplayer is the one that's likely to be attracting more participants, consequently if you're doing it on a streaming platform, more viewers, because the viewers will be a mixture of various groups. You will have people coming to view your channel because they want to actually join in with your activity live online. So be volunteering. Can I come in and join your squad? Another lot is learning. So they're just watching and learning from your online activity. The third group is a group of community-based members who are just watching other people's activities. So they might pop in with a comment or two, but they're not going to be playing the game. They're just not even gamers. They're just interested in that sort of activity and communication that you have online. You will have other people who are watching because they want to be just connecting with everyone who is already there, be it a gamer or viewer or participant or anyone else. Four different groups of people will want to be coming in to your channel to watch your activity on that multiplayer. Destiny is the best possible example. We talked about it yesterday. Destiny is exactly that type of game, because Destiny 2, for instance, has all these different types of activities within one game. And in Destiny 1, we didn't have an activity like Gambit with AI and PvP together. And that's really kind of activity that's very, very popular, you know? So in Destiny 1, we would get people frequently watching my channel and then wanting to come in order to join forces with me in order to complete a strike, in order to complete a story-based mission, to do a raid, to complete whatever other task there is, pinnacle weapon, lengthy grinds. You have people who want to come in to say, we'd like to play together with you because we want to learn. So it doesn't matter what you do, we just learn from what you do. And Destiny again is a game where you need to be learning a lot about many different tasks. The best way of learning is through that community membership. People come in. For a raid, it's up to 6 people. On average, it will be 3. And also don't forget, if you have 3 people, 2 people who stepped in together with a streamer, you will have viewers, and the viewers will also be communicating through chat, or maybe even live online if you bring them into party chat, and they'll be telling you what you can be doing. If they appear to be veterans or people who really complete the game, gone through all the activities, and were interested in teaching others. So it becomes a multi-level, multifaceted type of multiplayer activity in which everybody is talking, connecting, communicating, and potentially learning, or even training or teaching. That's the best. I had lots of sessions like this of Destiny 1, and we've had sometimes junior gamers coming in, and we had some of the veterans popping in and telling them what they need to be doing in order to, for instance, get a particular weapon, pinnacle weapon, lengthy grind, how to complete raids, how to do shortcuts, how to do glitches, how to, all sorts of things. It was really quite an interesting experience. So Destiny, through its own concepts, is already giving you this opportunity. So if you're thinking, what is likely to be a better game, what is likely to be more enjoyable in terms of what you do live online, the answer is very simple. It is that sort of game. And we've seen with Elder Scrolls Online, it's exactly the same. Loads of characters, loads of activities. And don't forget, Elder Scrolls Online is a game that is separate from the Elder Scrolls series. And you have quite a different type of content, although the characters, the races are very similar. And you will be having many veterans of all the other Elder Scrolls games over the years. They include Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls 1, 2, and 3, as well as Skyrim, as well as everything that is Elder Scrolls related. So therefore, all the other guys want to come in and talk about their gaming experience of the last 20 years, as well as to connect with you as a new gamer, a new streamer, and then make new friends, talk about all of the adventures. Elder Scrolls is a fantastic game for this. I just think that I've not invested enough time in basically a build-up of that sort of community in addition to Destiny, because I felt, doing 2 such games at the same time would really defeat its purpose. You really want to build one community first and then migrate to another, and Elder Scrolls will be around forever, basically, and there's no danger of missing out on that community membership. It will come along as soon as you join in. And again, what's important is that Elder Scrolls is a game that requires advice. When you have 2 or 3 people popping in, doing together with you a live online activity, they'll be able to train you how to use certain skills, how to build special powers, how to be doing crafting, how to be completing certain tasks. It's all about that, giving attention to your friend, the person who's next to you, and then attempting to train them, to teach them, to provide them with the right direction. And that is always the most beneficial. The games that are very family friendly, with the emphasis on teaching and training, are likely to be most popular. I think Minecraft, a game that I've never played, but I watched some developer diaries and a few things recently which gave me the idea of the recent inclusions. They have one corner which is for learning. It's like a Minecraft university, and then you learn on certain subjects. It's just really wonderful that the gaming industry is going down that route, because it's giving us huge opportunities for everyone to enjoy. And like with Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Origins, people learning about ancient Greece and Egypt through video gameplay is just It's the best possible. So you could see when we compare one with the other as to why these types of massive multiplayers online will be the best games for you to choose from. You really need to be selecting one of them if you want to be a streamer, and then you need to spend anything between 6 to maybe 36 months just honing the community, building it, doing it. And it will have to be a game that has a long shelf life, longevity, like Destiny or the Scrolls. So it can't go wrong. I mean, to Borderlands, good game as well. You can go to Fallout. Fallout 76, for instance, a fantastic multiplayer game. And the list goes on and on, but at the same time, there aren't that many. There will be the games that are attracting the greatest number of participants at present. So, for instance, doing Mass Effect will be very much of interest, but also protracted. It will take you probably a couple of years to build a community of a few hundred. The reason for that is the game's presently not in circulation. Its multiplayer version, or a game that had a multiplayer section, Mass Effect Andromeda, didn't really go down too well with the veterans. Everyone's waiting now for the legendary remastered edition that will be published in May, and it doesn't have the multiplayer input. So you will be getting many people coming through your channel, like passing traffic, who are veterans, and they'll say a few things. They maybe jot down a comment or two, and they'll come back again. But it will be a very, very slow, protracted process. Right? So you will not see some of them just following your channel straight away, because it's a lengthy activity. They watch your channels sometimes. They'll see the way you're presenting the game. They'll find out whether they like your content. On the other hand, you're looking at Elder Scrolls Online or Destiny. It has much greater need for immediacy, and the connectivity is immediately there because somebody can see another person playing a character, doing certain things in the arena. Therefore, they can provide you with a comment on their abilities or their tasks, what they've done right, what they've done wrong, etc., etc. So there's a need for a greater connectivity. It's similar to what you can see with before we had smartphones. You get to a bus stop, you would ask the first person you saw there, how long has it been since the last bus arrived? And today, nobody will ask you this question, because your smartphone is connected to the network and you'll see exactly the score. So if there is a need, then there will be also that degree of activity. Right? It's just very simple. If you're hungry, you've got to eat. It's as simple as that. So now we are coming back to the last section of that question that our friend asked Gemma from Southampton. How did I experience multiplayers online after I was running my Twitch channel? Well, I think I described quite clearly the difference between one and the other, and as to why I consider multiplayers to be a lot better format for anyone who wants to run a successful Twitch channel. Some people may disagree with me. It's similar to when people say, well, you will never have many followers unless you have your webcam on, because people want to see who you are, they want to have immediate rapport, immediate contact. I find that to be completely wrong. You can be having your cam on if you want it to be there, if you're comfortable with it, but the emphasis of the channel will be very significantly altered. It will be all about that visual impact that a streamer is going to be having on all the viewers, and you will see, quite frankly, that people who look very exciting or trendy, they will in no time, due to their appearance, attract very, very many followers. When you go to the channels, the actual interactivity between their followers and their community and themselves as streamers is not all that massive. They will have maybe a few dozen people who come in every day, sometimes maybe a few hundred people who will be watching the channel in a week. But you don't get that reflection of that many people subscribe to it, or that many people are followers, and then having the same degree of interaction. It's more like an immediate response, like when you like a photograph. You like this photograph, click, I like it, and that's about it. Job done. Building a lengthy, interactive type of service on your channel is difficult, and it will be based on the streamer's abilities to connect with their community and provide always very high quality content. That streamer needs to be also attentive and responsive to all the questions that come in, be it through email messages or live online, and that itself is really, really fundamental. So lots of issues attached to all of that, and in my view, having no cam will make sure that if you're listening to that person, like listening to BBC Radio, for instance, Radio 4, you will be absolutely focusing on the way that person comes across through the use of the language and through what they talk about, the content. So it's much more about the content and a lot less about the way you look. You can compare it if you think of a report on what's happened, let's say, with some activities up and about, something that happens in a city, and you can watch that report on Sky News, and you will then listen to it on Radio 4, and then compare your own personal experience. It's very, very different. Listening to the Radio 4, you'll be building a picture of what this was like through the way this presenter or this broadcaster will be describing the entire event. So you'll build a picture of that in your mind, and you'll be absolutely looking and listening to every single word that this person is saying. It's all about the content. So the content will bring in the emotion of the actual situation to you, right? Which is going to be built up in you as you listen to them. If you're watching the same report on Sky News with pictures and images, your attention will be entirely focused on the visual impact and a lot less on what is being said. The same thing applies to people who are providing you with comments, debates in the studio. You'll be looking at what they look like, the way they move, the way, the gestures and the positioning, the way they sit, all sorts. And that's what the difference is. So if you want to have a channel that is providing high quality content and contributors who are doing exactly the same, in my view, it's better not to have the cam, and therefore you'll be running it a bit like a radio station, with calls in and all sorts of people trying to make contact, and you will need to maintain that degree of professionalism, that degree of high quality content. And so it's the same sort of debate. I mean, I've come across people who are running their channels without cams on very successfully, with a huge number of followers and with terrific content. And then on the other hand, I've seen also others doing it together with a cam. But still, I think if I'm watching a game and I have like a broadcaster's cam on, it's continuously distracting me from the actual online gaming activity. I mean, it's just the way it is, because you want to see their reaction, you want to see what they do in a particular situation, and you keep looking all the time towards that top right corner, the bottom left corner, where that broadcast is, and therefore you're not really experiencing it. So that's just my personal take on this, and therefore we are going to be debating this for quite some time. It's nothing new, it's been around for a long while, and everyone will be considering the same. So coming back to my own experience of the same multiplayer versus single player online, like within my channel, what I've been doing for the last 3 years. Well, to be honest with you, it's a bit of a lengthy story. I'm really glad that my community members are popping in with questions, because I can just rant. I can go on and on and on about certain things. That's great. Some of my friends will tell you, Miller really likes talking, and his podcast is just absolutely perfectly suited for that. Just a joke. I had a friend who was always listening to me. We're talking on the phone, and then suddenly realized he was fast asleep, didn't say anything. So I worked this out, and I'd set up an alarm, like a fire alarm, and that would give him quite an experience. Story for another day. If you consider all I said, multiplayers versus single player games, now you need to repicture that within a fully live online environment. If you are starting out, the activity in the channel may not be massive initially, depending on how many people you'll be bringing in yourself, people who are your friends and relatives and people who associates, or whether you are just going to be building it through randoms and through the usual kind of grassroots Twitch levels. But once you come in, you'll find out that your regularity will also bring a greater interaction. So more regular you are at a specific time during any day, so let's say 5 to 9 every single day you stream Destiny, people remember that you are doing that 5 to 9 or coming there every single day. So my experience of this was quite straightforward. What I tried to do was, as I had a considerable experience with various communities out there and online that were not really video gaming related at all, I wanted to experiment first of all with the degree of interactivity and the way it would work within its kind of first wave of Twitch streams, because Twitch really kicked off in 2015 and I was toying with the idea in 2016, and then I think 2017, 2018, that is when I really got my teeth in, and I really wanted to make sure that once I started running a channel, this would be an experiment that would prepare me for the same sort of work then apply to my other communities to do with film music and modern history. And I thought doing it within the field of video gaming would be perhaps less risky because it's less of a niche area, very, very popular type of activity for entertainment of today, and it's just grown since, during the last 4 years, we just had an exponential rise of the number of participants. So when I started out, we had less than 1 billion people entering video games. Today we have 4 billion people, an exponential rise of about 75% since the beginning of last year due to the terrible lockdown, of course. And so the activities become more and more popular. Many more people watch streams and participate live online, and that's just exponentially rising. It's one of the trendiest things to do, and you hear even children as young as 5 or 6 saying, I want to be a streamer. A bit like in the past, they say, I want to be a rock star, I want to be a musician, I want to be an actor. So it was an experiment, and I initially tried with a single player game, which was one of my personal favorites, Heavy Rain, a game that was released on PlayStation 3 a few years back. Terrific game, and similar to Mass Effect, depending on, well, not similar to Mass Effect, wrong comparison. It's a game that's based on your decisions, and you can't replay anything. So depending on what decisions you take, you will pursue a particular line of inquiry, and therefore you get a certain outcome, 17 different outcomes towards the end, depending on how you're pursuing the story. And the game went well. I had a few people coming in, saying a few things, being also very fond of adventure games and people who played other games of a similar kind. It was nothing really greatly exciting, greatly interactive. And then I said, well, we'll try Destiny. We'll see what this is going to be like, because Destiny is obviously a wonderful multiplayer, and in order to learn, you need to be relying on your community members and other squad mates. And then that was just the best possible decision. It took off straight away. Even within the first couple of weeks, we already had loads of people coming, and the reasons for that were simple. I was the only regular, everyday streamer of Destiny on Twitch, and the algorithms picked me up, and I was always popping up as the first person, and that's critical in terms of your long-term success. You really want to have algorithms picking you up, and there will be specific stats and reasons as to why that is. One of them is the frequency, the regularity of your stream, as well as its duration. You may have other Destiny streamers streaming for maybe 45 minutes or 2 hours, but if you're streaming for 6 hours a day, you are a true heavyweight, and they will be pushing you. They will push you towards the front, right? Similar to the other guys that will have maybe a few hundred or few thousand viewers at any other time. So it's the number of viewers and the number of hours that you stream that will be providing you with that, heavy category on your channel, and therefore you will be seen and heard by very many people. So in fact, if you look at it, I really combined 2 different types of gaming experiences. One was what I actually like, and that is a single player experience for myself, exploring all the options, asking all the questions, and having really a very immersive, very lengthy adventure game experience. I really love RPGs and open worlds, so, Fallout and Mass Effect, and you name it, these are the favorites, and I always can just stroll through the wilderness and explore the areas, and always have a lot of leisurely entertainment. And to be frank, the recent game that I've just discovered, Empire of Sin, a game that I've had already on top of my list for quite some time, is probably the pinnacle of it all. It's just absolutely my kind of game. On one hand, I have this open world with exploration. On the other, I have real-time strategy. So that's the best. That probably is my newly discovered, established niche favorite. But I'll tell you about that maybe later or on another day. So really, my own experience of multiplayer began with Destiny being streamed here on Twitch, and it was very easy. Lots of people would have come in, and the overall community was very friendly, very attentive, extremely supportive. So similar to what the Bungie Foundation does, you know, very supportive towards those in the need. And I managed to learn in 6 months all about Destiny. And other veterans told me it would have taken us 2 to 3 years to learn all that you've gone through. So it's thanks to you. It's you know, it's all down to the interactions and the tutorials and input that I've had from others. But what was wonderful for me was the experience similar to Classroom. You would have maybe 1 or 2 people joining me in online activity, and then maybe half dozen or 2 dozen watching and learning from activity, and then, you know, communicating about how important it was for them to be watching and learning, and then applying that to their own game, and vice versa. We had other people coaching us if we were trying to achieve certain tasks that previously were not completed by any of us. So that itself gave me the best possible reason as to why I would want to be streaming every day, as well as the reason to the participants to come back in. Right? It was the need, them to be teaching me and me to be listening to them and learning from them. It's a wonderful experience. And you know, I think if you compare 2 big games that we have here on the channel, Destiny and in recent times Warzone, and these are the biggest communities I established online with regular everyday participants, they're very, very different. They're absolutely beyond any form of comparison, but in the name of multiplayer. Destiny is a family-friendly game, right? It's just very, very easy, very laid back. May not be if you're doing the Crucible, the PvP, and wanting to be one of the veterans there, but that's not really something I've done here on my channel. I don't really like the Crucible. The Crucible is the least of my favorites in Destiny 1 and 2, and I rarely go in there by myself, but I go there on requests from, you know, our viewers and people who really want to be watching it. It's very highly competitive, and I'm not a competitive gamer, and therefore it is unseating me to a degree within my mindset, you know. And I find Destiny particularly good because it comes across as leisurely. You have some hectic activities like raids and strikes, but overall activity is lengthening grinds, collecting items, looting, shooting, meeting monsters, eliminating them, redoing them, and doing that together with other 2 guys, which is always by far the best. So that is the game that I would consider to be the best possible for regular streams and family-friendly activity that is likely to be bringing in quite a large number of new participants, and then eventually them becoming your community members, right? Warzone is a real-life military simulation, and it is quite close in some aspects to what you would experience in the field. So anyone who's served in the military, or anyone who, you know, knows something about tactical kind of maneuvers and approaches, will be very hot on that. They'll find themselves wanting to excel. And automatically, due to the fact it's very close to real life and it is a military simulation, it is fueling the competitive elements in the participants, right? So you will get quite a variety of people coming in, from those who are competitive and, you know, having a laugh if everything goes wrong, which happens very frequently, to the other extreme, people who are basically devoid of any humor and want to be succeeding and winning every single game, and doing it really very competitively, and perhaps sometimes in order to, sometimes even overdoing it, meaning that their competitive streak will rub off on other participants and they'll feel judged or hassled or bullied or, you know, whatever. So it's from one extreme to another. And within my Warzone community, I experienced all of that, and I could say the vast variety of types of gamers that would have come in. Certainly since my Warzone stream started a year ago, the game's been around for about 13 months now, has been full of different types of characters who were popping in and doing it together with me and my squad mates. Initially we were promoting Warzone, and initially this was a game where I wanted to just, help Activision with the launch of their first Battle Royale. And I didn't really think of building a community which would be just separate and built on, the Warzone premises, so to speak. I had some really good guys coming in, and people who were very family friendly and very interested and very helpful towards others, and everything was as it should be. But because I didn't have that continuity, I would have Warzone be a couple of hours a day, and then Destiny was the main game, of course. It didn't have the same emphasis. But once I decided later in the year, after I felt that Destiny membership and our community was getting slightly depleted for various reasons, partly to do with the pandemic, and great to do with the lack of content coming in through seasonal stuff given to us in the sequel. I just went back to Warzone because I thought Warzone is a game that's giving us, first of all, this cross-platform opportunity, and we are like to be attracting quite a few new people. And let's just compare. Let's just see what this is going to be like compared to our Destiny community. And this is very very grateful to Gemma for asking the question, because it's the best possible comparison. We've got 2 multiplayer games in there, and we can see how people behave very differently in that forum, right? Live online, again, doing it together, but in very, very separate, very different, noticeably different ways. I was very fortunate that very early I managed to get several people through random matchmaking who were absolutely on the same page with me. We were gelling in perfectly. We were very sociable, very chatty. We were full of humor, and everyone was very, very family friendly. So I managed to get half a dozen people within a couple of weeks who were ideal for a genuine online activity that is both family friendly and entertaining and quite personal and personable. We talked a lot about things which were not connected with the actual game, things like what food we were eating and what restaurants we'd go to, and lamenting about the absence of certain activities in our local community due to lockdown. And Gemma will know this because obviously in Southampton it's exactly the same like over here. And it became a very, very family-like forum. It was much closer and more closely bonded compared to what I had in Destiny. I mean, with Destiny I had regularity and we've had dedication. It was all about the game. So there were no personal elements in it. With Warzone community became like in a squad. If you're in a squad, if you're serving, in the field, it's just all about the buddy next to you. It's all about the guys who are in your unit. It's all about them because they're the most important people on earth. They will be there to save your life, and vice versa. So it's very interesting how that was reflected in the membership, and I had some of the very best times, some of the very best activities with my friends there in Warzone. So after a little while, our friend James Carter, who is also a member of our community, he said, well, let's just build a regiment, and then we can bring in sometimes people come in through randoms, and we'll have a forum in which people can obviously squad up with anyone at any time. And if it's a global forum, the regional time zone, etc., will not matter. So that was a really good idea. Let's do it, because I never really built any other clans or regiments previously. So for me that was the first experience overall, and the same was for him. And we then brought in our core membership. There were 6 of us, and then in no time, within maybe 6 weeks, well, within 6 months, we already gone to about 30 members of our regiment. And we have quite strict requirements. We wanted people, first of all, to be very communicative, and we wanted them to be absolutely focused on what's essential in the game. That's team effort. So basically, Carter coined the phrase, which then we used for our regimental tag. And originally we would say, well, we wanted to say, or we agreed with the notion that teamwork is dreamwork. So we said teamwork, TW, DW. And then it turned out to be a bit austere on some other requirements, which is to do with communications. If you're doing works together, you need to be communicating, right? And also he had in mind the fact that we are live online, so we want to be talking in order to engage and interact with others who are watching on various platforms. So we coined, well, he actually coined the term teamwork, TW, buybacks, which means You need to collect the loot and get the money in order to bring your mates back once they're killed, and do that consistently and continuously up to a point where you're all gone, right? And the last one is comms. So it's TW, stands for teamwork, buybacks, and comms. TW, BB, and C. Not to do with BBC, it's buybacks and comms. And then we were looking also at maybe an inclusion of 1 or 2 Charlie team members, people who are really, a bit forward, a bit more like a competitive gamer, in order to sharpen up the wit and make sure that we were also kept on our toes instead of just, having a lot of fun. And I was in 2 minds about this, and I really kind of seriously considered it, and I did allow a couple of members to come in who were competitive gamers, because really our community is not about competition. When you have a competitive gamer coming in, he is a bit like your DS, your drill sergeant. He'll be constantly lambasting you with what you need to be doing, what you've not done right, etc., etc. And that really is not pleasant to watch or pleasant, to listen to if you are a viewer or if you're running a community-based channel. So with due respect to all the competitive gamers, it's nothing personal. It's just simply to do with the overall aura, the overall structure of what we do here, all-inclusive, family-friendly, type of channel. And that generally worked quite well. As we progressed, I felt that with the inclusion of those competitive gamers, the atmosphere in our community began to shift, and I was very unhappy about that, because we don't want really that degree of competitiveness or competition to be tarnishing all else that we create. And it was just like a change of direction. It came in and then it went by. It didn't really affect any of us, but it was present. It was visible, right? It was felt, certainly by myself, and I could see sometimes if we were in a squad with somebody who was a competitive gamer, that our members would behave differently. They would approach the game differently. So I'm raising this because it's very important. You were asking specifically a question, what games will be most suited? Well, Warzone is a game that is very suited for a community build-up, but it will bring you lots of headaches if you're not careful, because lots of people do it for the reason of winning, for the competitive side of things. They want to be always down to the last 5, and in that game that's not possible. So this itself could be the reason that certain things would get out of hand, or there'd be some comments coming in which are not terribly pleasant, and etc. What is important is that if you are running a channel and you have a game like Warzone fully incorporated, you will need to have a very clear selection of rules. And in fact, one thing I probably didn't do too well, and I will be amending it, because at the moment we are on a full break from our Destiny and Warzone streams. I'm doing other games like Watch Dogs Legion and Fallout, etc. during the break. It's leisurely, and it's less taxing on me as well, because obviously our communities are then on hold and people can come in and provide comments. It's not the same thing. It's not like a live online activity. And it's one thing that I feel, well, in hindsight, when I look at it now, I didn't do too well. I have my channel rules, and the channel rules apply to everyone who's participating live online. What I didn't do was I did not set up my regiment rules, and they can be distinctly different, but they will have to incorporate all the channel rules, because quite frankly we have in our regiment several members who are not suited for live online, and they're not suited because they're temperamental, they rant, they swear, they say things which are not pleasant in a public live online forum, but they're great gamers, and they play well, and they also, some of them are quite competitive. So that itself is the reason as to why the guys who in the regiment may not need to be or will not be participating with on my online forums, like through my Twitch streams. And therefore the group of people who is participating on the 9, they've got to be selected because they are really family friendly, or they're giving an aura of pleasantries, and we just, that is the distinction. That's something I learned, not something anticipated, because generally if you're not running it on Twitch, you can simply ask people to leave, or create a different sort of community, or you can build a separate regiment, whatever. I think in this instance, the community is very closely bonded. Everybody knows each other, which is fantastic, and we have a lot of fun. But we all need to respect each other's privacy and each other's rules. So I think the difference between some of the guys doing it live online with me is that they will be fully aware of the rules and they will adhere to the rules to the letter. And when they get together outside of my broadcast, it's a different story. So, you know, they adjust. And there were instances where, for instance, I would bring them in after already they played for a few hours early in the day, and then they did say a few things which were not applicable, and I really, you know, warned them about it. So I was very sorry. We just keep thinking we are still doing it for ourselves. We forgot that we were live online, which is fine. I think everyone needs to own up, and principally, if you're looking at the creation of your own regiment or the system which is going to be, you know, the best possible for yourself as a streamer on a particular title or with a particular game, just make sure that these rules are very clear from the onset to spare any hassle and any difficulties later on. And you know, just make sure it is as pleasant and as interactive as possible. I think Warzone is providing a huge opportunity for people who want to be doing it on an everyday basis, because, you know, it does have that twang. I've got to be winning. I want to do a bit better in the next match. Things didn't work out in here because we landed at the wrong place. Maybe the internet speed's not so good today. Maybe there's something else, and you always want to go into this other match, the next one. So that is significant. You know, you want to go in, do another match, and you're being driven to do more, and therefore you will continue to do the game, and you can bring in other mates to support you, you know, with your effort. So it does have the repetitive element of needing to do a bit more. So therefore, it draws many more people in, as well as, you know, to participate with your live on activity, as well as to simply watch what you are doing. And both of these activities will fuel the energy, you know, on your channel. You would have seen on my Warzone streams, we had sometimes our regular squad mates who couldn't get in because the squad was already full. And usually we keep the squad on for as long as possible. So the rest of them watched the stream, and they were throwing in comments and having fun. And, you know, that's the best possible. That's the highest degree of development in any online community. That is the pinnacle of what we see as a proper, fully functional, you know, Twitch-based online gaming community channel, where you get people in and they become very closely bonded. I mean, initially we were all unknown to each other, but today we are just so closely bonded friends. We know each other 100%, and you know, we have connected outside of our forum here live online and had a lot of fun, and became really very, very good friends. And that is a significant difference, and that's what I see as being most advanced. I personally like to see every community to be like this. And I just want to go back to the earlier point. If you are working with a group of competitive players, you need to consider who you want to be playing the game with in your own time, and who you want to be bringing in order to be present on your Twitch channel. That's very, very important, because if you are bringing in somebody who is abrasive or rude or something to your Twitch stream just because he's a member of your online community, then you'll have certain issues, and you have to be also watching out for Twitch moderators and you know, those people who are looking at the content if you subscribe to the family-friendly environment. And don't forget, even if you're running it as a channel ready for mature audiences, anything which is very rude, abrasive is not going to be appreciated, and it will exclude quite a great number of people from the overall participation, and I think that itself is always going to be of concern. So I think that probably summarizes all that I wanted to say to Gemma. Please do send me another message or respond to all of the comments and views. We already talked about that for about 90 minutes. So I think I tried to explain the difference between two different systems. One which is based on single player involvement, the other a multiplayer the way I experienced these games separately from my live online streams and the way they worked within my Twitch channel concepts. So altogether, I hope you are going to be finding this of assistance, and just send us another message and I'll be very, very glad to respond. Also, if you are setting up a new channel, if you want to be streaming on the regular basis, let me know. We can perhaps sometimes do things together, and also tell me what games you've selected for your channel, what you find really of interest and use, and generally tell me how everything is progressing. So the other question I had was from Jake, and Jake is in Houston. I think he probably is a friend of our friend Sam, who was sending us messages. It's interesting because I had 2 messages from Texas coming in a couple of days, and he asked me about my preference for open world and how do I see the difference between open world and RPG. So the question was, hi Daniel, how are you doing? I really enjoy your podcasts, and indeed I watched your streams previously with Destiny. I know that you are a great fan of RPGs and open world games. You streamed many of them in here, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of those. I'd be quite curious to see or to hear from you as to why you are choosing these games and maybe not competitive shooters or FPS. For instance, what is that draws you to open world and RPG? Well, first of all, thank you so much for your question. Really appreciate it, and I'm delighted to see that you are watching my streams, that you've been here with our Destiny community for quite some time, and also truly humbled to see that you are listening to my podcast, because podcast indeed is here every single day and providing everyone in our community with some tips and tricks in order to, I guess, advance as a streamer, or indeed to exchange the views on their video game experiences. Well, I've been drawn to open world almost right from the start. I played my first game that I played was, well, video game I should say, was 3DC, and this is a wonderful open world game from 1992, I think, or 1993, and you play a character in Washington DC who is trying to preserve humanity after they had some apocalyptic Armageddon in there, very similar to Fallout in fact. And the game had very basic graphics, but I have to tell you, it didn't have the graphics like the arcade games, which were highly pixelated and dotted. It looked like beautiful at the time. I played it on Windows 3.1, and it just grabbed me straight away. In fact, it was myself and a colleague. We were on a night shift, and we were doing a lockup 9:00 p.m. I said to him, look, I got this new game, and you're quite well versed in computers. Shall we just try it? Because I knew nothing about computers at the time. And he said, oh, absolutely, that sounds really cool. Let's just have a look at it. And you know what? The night shift just went. We had no sleep. We were just exploring that open world and doing everything. The open world of 3DC was tiny compared to what we have in Fallout and Destiny or Mass Effect. But basically for me, what connected with me, first of all, and most importantly, was that I would do in this open world exactly the same as I'd experienced something in real life. I'm a person who doesn't drive, right? I don't like driving, and that sort of means of travel generally, flying, whatever. I do everything on foot. I like walking. I like strolling. I like seeing things as I walk through certain areas. And I walk a lot, right? I mean, just in within the last year, I walked almost 3,000 miles, and that was to do with the fact that every day I walked 10 miles, 5 miles back and forth to my neighboring town when I get my dinner, and I did that in purpose because of the overall lockdown rules and everything. And just wanted to make sure that I would get enough exercise, because I generally go swimming 5 times a week, and I swim usually an hour on stretch, but couldn't do any of this because of the lockdown. Our swimming pools have been closed literally throughout. We had a small window of swimming pools being open for a few months, but generally due to the COVID pandemic, I'm kept away from everyone and everything. So, I walked a lot really during this period, and it's very useful that I live in a nature reserve, so it's a lengthy, lovely, beautiful walk through our local environment, our local park, and very, very pleasant to do it at night. But what I do in real life, I will also do in video gaming. So for instance, we've had several gamers popping in and they watched, what was it? I think it was Fallout. There was another game with fast travel. Can't remember now what it was. It was 2 games with fast travel, and there were viewers saying, "Why are you just walking? Fast travel, yeah, Elder Scrolls, I think it was." And I said, hang on a minute. If you're doing a massive big open world game, what you want to do is you want to be strolling, you want to be walking, because as you walk, you are exploring. I know what it was. It was Anthem. It was Anthem, not Elder Scrolls. And Anthem is exactly the game where you should not be using fast travel at all, because you're missing out on large sections of the story. And you don't talk to characters who you will find in certain areas. You do not unlock content, and therefore you are just not getting there. The game becomes a bit pedestrian, mundane, uninteresting, and you finish it in 12 hours, when in fact I finished Anthem in 146 hours. So it's a very, very big difference. So basically, I would go out, let's say in Fallout, and I would just walk everywhere, and in Oblivion, and in any other game, any open world, Mass Effect, and I meet all the other characters, talk to them, find out for myself what they're about, and unlock separate sections of the story. These games have been designed and produced in order to have a multitude of different options. And I remember when Fallout 3 came out, it was a revelation for me. I played other open world games before, and I played Fallout 1 and 2 previously on PC, which was a kind of a strategy game. But what they introduced in the 3rd installment was something completely different, and we know that the concept's been developed through many other titles, and we have today the games like Destiny and Fallout 76 with this massive, ever-evolving open world. And that's really humbling, because I like walking, looking around, exploring, collecting loot, and most importantly, I like talking. I like talking to all the characters and then unlocking that novel content, and that is for me very, very rewarding. I can play Fallout 3 or 4 million times. It'd be always interesting to talk, because there are loads of characters in there, very many, and you are talking to them, and you have usually about 3 different mood options. One is very polite, the other one is very abrasive, and third one is a bit sarcastic. So it's 3 different types of character that you'll be pursuing. So in fact, you can play the game 3 times and then pursue your questioning according to one of those types of character, and it will be quite different, what you'll be getting. And in Mass Effect you have loads of different sub-quests, and you'll get a multitude of different types of outcomes if you're sticking to the guns in terms of how you come across as Commander Shepard, the character you play in Mass Effect. So I think that is the greatest strength of open world games, and that is what draws me to them. It is the fact they will reflect something that I would do otherwise in real life out there every single day. RPGs for me is all about talking. It's about communication. I played Half-Life, for instance, when it came out first, and I bought the Legendary Edition, two separate beautifully designed PC game boxes, and it had also Counter-Strike included and various other things. And if there was one thing in there that was missing for me, it was the quantity of dialogue. You had NPCs, but you weren't asking that many questions. You would stumble on a character, he'll tell you something, and you crack on with more FPS, firepower, action. And RPGs are exactly the opposite. You will be walking through an open field or through an area, you'll find a character, and then you'll be given elements of the story, you'll be talking to them. That is what really draws me to RPGs. It's the overall immersive quality of the open world, but most importantly, it's the quantity of that dialogue. If there is a reason as to why Mass Effect is my favorite game, the most significant, the biggest, the most important one is the quantity of interactions. The dialogue there is still second to none. I mean, we've had other games where people talked, but Mass Effect, particularly the second install, Mass Effect 2, is simply mind-boggling with the number of questions, the bits of the story which are given to you, and also animation, because all the characters keep talking all the time. It's not just that you're listening to one character and then just read everything else that the other person has to say, and that itself is really, for me, very, very enjoyable. It's highly entertaining, and I'm a person who kind of grew. I was a bookworm as a child, and I liked reading stories and fables, and I enjoyed watching films which were story driven for quite a few years before I got into film history. Then I became interested in documentaries and experimental films and everything else, but still watching a good story driven film is something that I will resort to today at the end of a hard working day. Much prefer watching a film with straightforward linear narrative, a good story delivered in a very dense format, than something that's semi-experimental, hard to follow. It just, it's my own personal taste, and at the end of a hard working day, it's easy to digest. Watching Jean-Luc Godard or Jean Epstein or the experimentalists is something else. You will need to watch this early in the day where you're alert, awake and rested, and give you a different sort of experience. So RPGs are all about storytelling, and therefore this is what draws me to them. Wasteland 3 has been recommended to me by many people as one of the very best RPG stroke RTS games, and I think I've looked at it. I've not played it much, but Empire of Sin is very similar and resembles, I think, XCOM to a degree, XCOM 2 in particular, and Empire of Sin is just absolutely tip-top, the most perfect type of game for me, because it does bring in a huge story. You have about 12 or 14 different gangsters who could be your protagonist, and you can be replaying it again and again and get different outcomes, and it combines basically RPG storytelling, story-driven content, with real-time strategy, because you're building your criminal empire. Therefore you need to be producing alcohol, running brothels, and opening up casinos, and fighting turf wars with others, and all of that is being then documented. So it's a real thinking man's game, which means you need to think a lot about what you will be doing, what consequences this will cause. You get pop-up messages. This project is not doing too well. Alcohol quality is poor, so you need to increase storage space, increase production. You need to get better quality goods for the manufacturing, and so various things you need to be. Honestly, it's just incredible. So I'll hammer the game. I'll play every single day, and I'll try to really get to the bottom of it. And then once I've completed everything on one character, we'll see what the rate of success is going to be. We'll go to another gangster. So again, a game that could be played for many, many years. And it's down to it's a recent discovery. And we discovered it last week because Xbox Game Pass were giving it to us, and I was able to enjoy it and experience it. I have to say, it turned out to be a lot better game compared to what I expected it to be. I watched the developer diaries and some of the trailers, and I thought it will be interesting, but I didn't have the overall idea that it would turn out to be so enjoyable and so much kind of tailored to my taste. So I'm in awe, and if it does turn out to be one of my favorite games of all times, then it's the new concept of bringing in together your thinking man's game, i.e. RTS, real-time strategy, turn-based strategy game, together with that massive RPG content, and that is quite novel. We've had several games popping up recently. XCOM 2 is one of them, Empire of Sin is the other, and the third one I've not even tried yet is part of also Gears of War franchise, Gears Tactics, and they also said that it's a similar sort of game, story-based missions, campaigns, and then you have turn-based strategy as well. So a lot to explore. So anyway, that's the answer. Thank you to our friend for asking this question. And let me see, what else do we have there? think there was a question on my overall experience of online gaming, but I think I answered a lot of that within the first question. So I think we'll wrap it up on the community front with this. I can see that we've already been nearly streaming for 2 hours. We can go through the news a bit and see what's happening up and about, really out there in our local and worldwide gaming community. Most importantly, I will tell you that I've gone through a few games that were downloaded. Some of them are part of Bethesda Microsoft merger, and two of these are, well, three of these in fact, Dishonored, and that is Definitive Edition. The game's been completely reworked and it looks absolutely staggering. It's mouth-watering graphics. You really want to try the game even if you played the Dishonored until you were blue in the face. Its frame rate and colors, everything, sounds, music, the overall experience is just massively heightened. So tried it, looked at it, it looked really, really appetizing. The other I tried today before my podcast was Prey, and Prey I played in the past on 360, liked it, and definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was a wonderful game, but Bethesda reworked it as well, and it comes on enhanced frame rate with also remastered graphics, so it is really, really sharp and really scary. So if you are one of the guys that tried it before, you'll be scared as if you were playing Resident Evil. So really, really good stuff. And then I also looked at the third installment in the Doom trilogy, Doom 3. Also looking really, really good, reworked and remastered, increased frame rate, and everything is just top notch. So yet again, another title in the line of many which I will be entertaining and playing as we carry on with our celebration of Microsoft and Bethesda. So I did tell you that Empire of Sin is the game that I really presently truly admire. Played a lot of it every single day, but last night I didn't even have a look at it for one simple reason alone. We were given Watch Dogs Legion for the first time free of charge, and I thoroughly enjoyed the game and really look forward to the opportunity to try it live. The trial period will end on Sunday. All achievements and everything completed will be imported to the full game once we have it, and we are not able to access every single section of the game, so the vast majority of the activities are there before us. We can just crack on and enjoy all of that with ease throughout those 4 days. A massive big open world game, takes place in London, my home city, and I have to say that I was very excited about it when I began my journey, which was yesterday afternoon. But then we had 2 streams, and I think probably played the game for about 6 or 7 hours. I had some minor concerns as we carried on. It was more to do with the absence. Well, how to put it? It did seem that there's a lot of activity which is similar to what we had in Splinter Cell. Stealthy activity, exploring certain areas, avoiding enemies, making sure we're not getting into any scraps with anyone, and that includes humans as well as robots and drones and all sorts. But it did seem to me at that point that there was it was slightly disjointed, between the story-driven content and our activity. We heard various commanders and various people from HQ telling us what we need to be doing next, and then selecting the characters. But it didn't seem to blend in as well as you'd had it in, for instance, the Division games or in Splinter Cell. There was this absence of the connectivity between 2 different entities, almost as if 2 different companies worked on 2 different sections or 2 different types of in-game mechanics of the game. And we'll see how it develops. I'll crack on with my Warzone stream. War Dogs Legion stream very, very shortly. But that was one of the first things that came up, because I had a lot of strolling, a lot of walking, a lot of analysis, and a lot of investigation of literally anyone who I met on the streets of London. But the activities seemed protracted, and the tasks were given in separate areas of the map. But it just felt, well, maybe it's just the beginning of the game. We'll see. The overall blending of the story-driven content and the activity seemed slightly under question mark. The game is very atmospheric. London looks beautiful, and evidently we recognize all the sites. Don't think that this is the real map. It isn't. The areas, the landmark places are visible, but the streets have been greatly shortened, and you find places to be very, very close to one another, which is not the case in London. So all the major tourist spots have been blanked out, so you can't really tell what they're otherwise called. Like, for instance, yesterday I went to see Scala Cinema. Nowadays it's called Scala Music Club or nightclub, and it didn't really look quite like Scala out there, but it's at the same, well, it is not even at the same spot. It just seems to be too close to King's Cross Station. If you are a Londoner, you will know what I'm describing. And also when we walked from, where was it, Piccadilly to Russell Square and then to King's Cross, it was almost immediate. You were there in no time. So, you know, but the overall atmosphere of the city, the dark undertones, everything about the rebellion seemed perfectly designed and delivered. Music and the atmosphere was good. But I've got to say, I was surprised to see that they had a lot of soundtracks and a lot of music in there which was not really connected to various areas of London. If you think of Camden, you will be thinking of certain groups. If you're thinking of West End, you'll think of certain groups. Go to East End, again, you'll be thinking of certain artists. The same applies to suburbs and Brixton, South London. And so far, I've heard American bands and some relatively unknown London bands playing there, but surprised to be walking through Camden and we're listening to the Buzzcocks. Well, doesn't really blend in too well. I'm not sure who was deciding on the music, but certainly we would want to have many of those well-known London-based bands representing the local culture, environment, and all that's been happening over the decades. You could always say it's a futuristic version of London, and therefore the music kind of moved on, things changed. But I could see some cracks, and I'm very excited to carry on with the game, and I'll tell you all about it once I've come to the end, whether some of these things indeed will turn out to be different as we carry on. But I remember reading reviews that stated they felt there was the game was slightly disjointed. There was a lot of activity, but didn't seem to make sense as far as the story was concerned. And I think this was one of the first impressions I did have. But on the other hand, I'm very, very grateful to Ubisoft for giving it to us for free. And it's a game which can be explored over a long period of time. Anyone who's a Londoner, or anyone who wants to experience London, can just roam the streets. You can walk around and find out for yourself what everything looks like. And the buildings like the Royal Court of Justice, the Parliament, and Westminster Abbey are exactly as they are in real life. They look fantastic, beautifully designed, and I have the privilege of doing it on 16-inch screens. So the colours, the atmosphere, the music, everything else is absolutely top-notch. So a wonderful game. But my concern was just purely about the top level, because the games like The Division, they will be throwing in DLCs which are perfectly blending in with the activity, with the content and the system. And obviously this is a different company that worked on the Legion, and they said they will be introducing a lot of new content that will be region specific in different parts of London. There'll be different kinds of activities, some rebellion, God knows what. And this is just the first in line of many of those new offers coming in from Ubisoft. I was very pleased to see that on Ubisoft Connect I managed to get a lot of loot. We were given St. Patrick's outfits, so all the characters could wear everything green right from the beginning, inclusive of a mask that has shamrock. So really delightful. And don't forget to use Ubisoft Connect if you are playing any Ubisoft games, because you are getting, first of all, detailed stats. You can check out everything that is game related immediately, and you'll be getting a lot of rewards as you carry on for your daily login, for your grinds, and for many other things. It is game specific, so for instance games like Ghost Recon and The Division are providing a huge amount of loot. I'm not sure about this one. I did have a few bits given to me yesterday, not a great amount. But, we'll explore it further. We'll do a lot more online activity in Legion, and as I said, Legion is going to be the main game for the rest of the weekend, because I want to get as far as possible, explore that world of futuristic London, and find out really whether the developer excelled, which is what I indeed anticipated. So I think that is probably it all for today. Let me just see if there's anything else which is of interest on Twitter. Actually, I need to have a look as well on Xbox Wire, because I think they did have some bits of news related to the games that were introduced yesterday. Let me just have a look. Well, it doesn't look likely. Or does it? Oh, it does, yeah. We'll have a look at next week's on Xbox, March 30th to April the 2nd. We'll have, well, I need to race through that because I have 5 minutes left. Don't really want to be running through that too fast. I think the biggest thing is happening today, and that is ID of Xbox. We need to have a look. First of all, I need to have a look at Xbox Twitter. Just bear with me. Because if I'm not mistaken, the presentation was to be delivered today. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And that is on Twitch Gaming. So let me just see. Well, the presentation is already underway, and that is ID at Xbox, and they're delivering it through Xbox channel on YouTube and the one on Twitch. We have loads of different titles introduced, and they're featuring more than 25 games. They include Second Extinction, The Ascent, Stalker 2, Wild at Heart, Void Train, Exo 1, and the list goes on and on. So I'm not watching it live because of my podcast, and I'll be indeed watching it either tonight or tomorrow, provide you with a full feedback on all that is being said. I'm very excited about some of them. Stalker 2 is certainly a game that I'm looking forward to, being a great fan of the original. And then also Second Extinction and Ascent sound very, very appetizing. So for all of you who are watching, if you're interested, this is a lengthy presentation, it lasts several hours. You can just simply head to Xbox, where is it now? Hang on. Head to twitch.tv/Xbox or twitch.tv Twitch Gaming. So it's being streamed automatically at the same time on two separate channels on Twitch. So it's Xbox channel and Twitch Gaming channel you'll be able to see. So that's great, and that is delivered right now as we speak on Twitch. Then we heard that I Saw Black Clouds is going to be released on March the 30th, and it will be released for Xbox One X Enhanced. Saw Black Clouds is an interactive psychological thriller with supernatural elements and branching storylines. We have Narita Boy being launched on the same day, March the 30th, and that will also come to us on Xbox Game Pass. Sadly, I'm not getting I Saw Black Clouds on Xbox Game Pass. I really fancy it. And Narita Boy is like a flashback to the 80s. The creator, genius of his time, creates a video game console called Narita 1, with its flagship title being a game called Narita Boy. And that will come to us on Xbox Game Pass. That's looking really good. Then we have C14 Dating. Larry and Jeff talked about this game, and I've not seen any trailers or anything as yet. Looks very good. You play Melissa Flores, a third-year anthropology student participating in a summer archaeological internship. Staying in an unfamiliar country for 2 months, it can be nerve-wracking, but you couldn't pass up such a learning opportunity. You might also forge friendships and find romance during your stay. Escape from Life, again March the 31st on Xbox One X Enhanced. So it's a puzzler, a quirky story-driven puzzle platformer. You switch between 3 animals, a walking fish, an arrogant eagle, and a stuttering reindeer. Oh, that sounds like my kind of game. That's really good fun. Looks a bit retro, but definitely out on March the 31st. Radon Blast. Or is it Radon? I think it's Radon Blast. So that's the old style puzzler. You need to break bricks by using the ball, and looking very retro. Squad Killer, March the 31st. Again, puts you in control of retro arcade experience with a little modern flair. Looking very retro. Akalesia, April the 1st. So we really wish for 2 things: save the princess and become rich. Well, that sounds pretty good. Who wouldn't want to do that? It's fantastic. Save the princess and become rich. To get all the treasures of Akalesia, this hipster with a shotgun will have to fight hordes of monsters, sneak through a myriad of devious traps, and reveal a few secrets of survival. And then obviously, 1st of April is the biggest day of all for our channel here on Twitch, and also for People Can Fly, because on that date they are releasing their big AAA blockbuster Outriders, released everywhere, and it will be optimized for Xbox Series X and S. We'll get it on Xbox Game Pass straight away, so I can play it immediately, and it will be combining intense gunplay with violent powers and an arsenal of increasingly twisted weaponry and gear sets. You know it all, so I don't need to tell you. And we basically are really looking forward to this. I'll be streaming it from the word go, really. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1st of April at 5 o'clock PM is the time where Outriders are going to be available for anyone on Xbox Game Pass. And I will preload, and then we'll crack on exactly at 5 o'clock on that very day, April the 1st. Not really like a Fool's Day joke, you know. It's just absolutely correct. It's true, and we are all getting it. Also get it on smart delivery if you're migrating from the old to new consoles. So really cool stuff. So that's probably the biggest news of the month, really, together with the one where we managed to get War Dogs Legion as the blue. And I nearly forgot, we're also getting 9 separate games free of charge on Play at Home, and that is on PlayStation. So if you're on PlayStation, you've got to go to the store and claim all the games. You get them for free. They include Subnautica, and there's a whole list I'll tell you in a moment. But absolutely, nearly forgot about it. Absolutely a must. You've got to download all of these games, because from today these games are going to be basically yours, and they're given to you free of charge. So it's the biggest dispatch of free games that PlayStation have given us for a very, very long time. Mittelbox City of Mages, April the 2nd. Monsters, Nomads, Mercenaries, The Living Dead, The Rebellious Spirits. Chaos does not sleep and besieges the universe. So power is a heavy burden. It's a strategy game. Papa's Quiz, April the 2nd. Papa's Quiz is a party game for 1 to 8 players. Use phone or tablets as controllers and complete in multiple question types, where the smartest and the fastest player will be the last standing victor. Well, I want to play that. Papa's Quiz is released on April the 2nd. I believe it's just on Xbox One. Stormfront, The Mutant War, Ubel Edition, that is on Xbox Play Anywhere, April the 2nd. The Train Simulator, April the 2nd. And that's it. So that's the news we are getting on Xbox Wire, I think. And I just want to see those few things. Where is it now? Hang on. I want to tell you about the games you can claim for free on PlayStation. So we need to find these. Also, I need to tell you that I had been posting many screenshots of my recent online activity on my Twitter. So we had quite a selection: Fallout 3, Empire of Sin, Watch Dogs Legion, Paladins, and the whole Spiritfarer. In fact, picked up by Xbox ambassadors today. So very grateful for your support, guys, for retweeting it, because it gave me immediately some fans, followers, and lots of views. So that's terrific. And I have loads of these. I have Roaming the Streets, have Our Skies, and new messages, and all of that coming from War Dogs Legion. You can see it. And I've incorporated my online activity now on my Twitter, and I do send lots of screenshots there every single day. So if you're interested, if you like really beautiful pictures, always have a look. Loads of good screenshots. You know, not just because I took them; they just look beautiful, and I'm astonished by the fact that we can just click on one button and produce such a wonderful screenshot. Watch Dogs Legion has also a section for taking photographs, and you can be taking photographs of your lead character in certain parts of London with messages and, you know, different outfits. So remember that, and they look really absolutely awesome. So I got loads of these there, really loads, and in addition to the ones from More Dogs Legion, I have also these related to Empire of Sin. I actually did post quite a few screenshots of gangsters, and if you're playing Empire of Sin, you are going to be you will settle on one gangster, and that's the person, that's the character who will be building the empire in Chicago of 1920s. And I've chosen Goldie Garneau. So she's a girl from down south who's pretending to be somebody from Canada, speaks with a French accent, and a bit of, you know, a bit of a trickster. So you can find her on my Twitter, and all the other gangsters. And these gangsters include real life personality, like for instance Al Capone. So they're looking really good in there. I've got to say, I'm astonished by the picture quality watching them on my Sony Xperia 5 II, but it's just really, really terrific quality pictures. I said, simply loving Empire of Sin, a revelation, Xbox and Xbox Share. Then we have a reminder of the Sony Definitive Edition, the game we revisited this week. And then also a reminder to everyone that Bless Unleashed, a wonderful RPG, online RPG, is celebrating its first year anniversary, so everyone needs to head there. I'll try to squeeze in Bless Unleashed either during the weekend or maybe on Monday. I need to see really what the dates are, because I really want to get some of the loot. Let me see. Kicked off March the 18th. Yeah. So that's already about 8 days. Hopefully I've not missed it. Full Throttle is another game that I used to play in the 90s, and they remastered it. It's available on Xbox. Golden Oldies, bringing back to the PCs of 1990s, and then loads of shots from Fallout. So for all of you dedicated gamers, definitely head to my Twitter, have a look, and tell me what you think of these screenshots. And loads of them, probably more than 100. So I've been busy. And then Spiritfarer as well. Spiritfarer was picked up by Xbox ambassadors. Let me see. I'm curious to see tweet activity. Well, you see the way it works. Similar to what I told you about indie games. Once they get a platform on which they can be seen, then they receive huge amount of views. And like one screenshot of Spiritfarer received more than 4,000 views already, and only posted it a couple of hours ago. So we had Xbox ambassadors retweeting it, and therefore, you know, it was picked up straight away by so many. So I'm very grateful to Xbox ambassadors team, and also very grateful to all who are liking and retweeting that wonderful, wonderful screenshot. And it's a screenshot of our character Stella hugging one of the other new friends, and the screenshot tells you, the message tells you, great new friends. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful game for the lockdown. You know, gives you something really positive, really friendly, and every character can sort of press the button where you press the button where every character could be hugging a new friend or anyone else who's an NPC, and that's just really, really good. Really provides you with some hope, with some light at the end of the tunnel, with some positivity. So where are these games? Right, we've heard about Octopath Traveler. Heard about the Stalker 2 developers using a custom teeth tool to make each character's smile unique. Well, we have several pictures in there, and I've got to tell you, these guys look really menacing. They look really unfriendly. So where is this bit of news? Oh, we've heard that more new Fallout music coming in 2021. The composer Inon Zer is telling us about this. I've got the posting on my Twitter. And are you excited for Biomutant? Released on PlayStation 5. He looks incredible. Deathloop is coming to PlayStation, so get ready. They had some interesting news popping up on Game Informer today, and they sat down with their narrative designer Bennett Smith, and they've given us this rundown on all that Deathloop will be. It's the upcoming action-adventure game that's graced our cover for the last month, and basically we've seen also some trailers and clips, part of their recent presentations for PlayStation. Following a critical success with the Dishonored series, Arcane Studios crafted a brand new world to explore set on the island of Black Reef. Deathloop is a story that follows Colt Vaughn, a man who is stuck in a never-ending loop with a secret society that's led by antagonist Juliana. So we have a major interview in there with the game director and their narrative designer Bennett Smith, so absolutely everyone needs to head to my Twitter and read the interview. You'll be very curious because this game is similar to, it looks a bit like something out of Tarantino's film, you know, or Robert Rodriguez, like Desperado, one of these from, what's it called, from Dusk to Dawn, you know, these kinds of films where lots of supernatural weird things keep happening. And I'm still looking for the list, and finally, at long last, I did find it. And guess what? It was my first tweet of the day, and many other tweets would have been launched ever since. So Sony's Play at Home initiative is back, and it's really much better than ever before after giving away Ratchet & Clank, which I claimed last month, completely free of charge last month. And listen up, if you've not claimed it, you can still do it for another 6 days, and you absolutely must get Ratchet & Clank. It's a fantastic game, very funny. The hardware manufacturer has 9 more PlayStation 4 games for you to download and keep forever. You do not need a PS Plus subscription, so you don't need to be even a subscriber, and these titles can be redeemed and played whenever you like. All of them can be claimed on PlayStation Store right away, so head on over and get downloading. Even if you're not interested in playing 1 or 2, you might as well grab the whole selection. You need to support the developers. I keep saying that if you don't download these games, you don't take them, people think that you're not interested and they will stop giving us freebies. We do not want to see that. It really needs repeating again. All of these PS4 games are entirely free and available to claim until 22nd of April of 2021. So, what are the games? Abzu, I have it on PlayStation Now services. Enter the Gungeon as well. Res Infinite, Subnautica, The Witness, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Moss, Thumper, and Paper Beast. We've heard also that everyone who's on PlayStation is most excited about the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, and how would it be possible for us not to be? I mean, it's similar to The Last of Us or Uncharted. It's absolutely phenomenal PS exclusives. We just can't wait for that Horizon Zero Dawn to be emerging, and certainly absolutely top notch, and I'm very excited about it. But anyway, coming back to the freebies are given to us today. Okay, so it's 9 free PS4 games that we can all claim straight away off PS4. Abzu, Enter the Gungeon, Res Infinite, Subnautica, The Witness, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Moss, Thumper, and Paper Beast. And you know what? This is a good way to wrap up this podcast. So thank you for watching, and thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for being our valued community members. I really enjoyed everyone's participation. Most grateful to all of you who wrote, because the entire podcast was dedicated to things that were asked from us and the messages that arrived since yesterday. Most importantly, the one from Gemma and from our other friend from Houston, Texas. And hope you find some of the ideas of interest and of assistance. Please remember that all I say here is based on my own personal experience, and can't even talk anymore. On my personal experience, not experienced. Yeah, you know, when I talk for a while, my brain freezes and I keep saying funny things, so I really do apologize. And as you could see, my podcast so far been delivered without a break. And if you want to keep an astute, sharp, razor-sharp mind, you've got to take lots of breaks. And I keep forgetting this of late. I don't know why. Thanks to my Warzone mates, I think we were playing lots of games and I took no breaks then, so it sort of I caught the bug, you know, but it's every 90 minutes that I'm usually having a 10-15 minute break. Anyway, cut story short, I basically base everything I say here on my own personal experience, and hopefully you will be able to find that to be of assistance. If not, send us another message. If you have any other sub-questions, feel free to ask, because this is the only way to learn. Right, so we've come to the end of our podcast. Thank you for supporting it, and we'll migrate very shortly to the game that I'm enjoying immensely playing and entertaining at the moment here on my channel. And this is the big freebie for this weekend coming from Ubisoft. Of course, this is Watch Dogs Legion, and if you've not downloaded it yet, well, what are you waiting for? You know, hit that button, download, and try it. First of all, you'll be introduced to my city, London, and secondly, you'll be doing something which is very important for the humanity overall, which is fighting tyranny. And you know, the game's just absolutely truly wonderful. There are some minor concerns about a few bits and pieces, but I'm right at the beginning, so I'm not really here to judge before I've gone through the whole game. But it was just the first few impressions about maybe a lot of stealthy activity that didn't seem to be too well connected to the story for my liking. But nevertheless, I will really be loving and exploring the world again, and definitely paying attention to all that is still to follow, as they introduce several DLCs and multiplayer activities, and you know, all sorts. A lot to come our way in Watch Dogs Legion. Certainly a brand new game as well. It's been around for about 5 months roughly, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion were the two games that I really want to play since last November, and Valhalla's still not with me, but Watch Dogs are. So there we are. We'll crack on very shortly. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. See you all a bit later.